You too, Caita, nurse of Aeneas, have given, by your death, eternal flame to our shores. The honour paid you there even now protects your resting place, and your name marks the place where your bones lie in great Hesperia, if that glory is of any value. Good Aeneas duly performed the funeral rites, and heaped up a barrow for the tomb. And when there was calm on the high seas, he set sail, and left the port behind him. A fair breeze kept blowing as night came on. The white moon lit their course, and the sea shone in its shimmering rays. Keeping close inshore, they skirted the land where Circe, the daughter of the sun, lives among her riches. There she sets the untrodden groves ringing with never-ending singing, and burns the fragrant cedarwood in her proud palace to lighten the darkness of the night as her sounding shuttle runs across the delicate warp. From her palace could be heard growls of anger from lions fretting at their chains and roaring late into the night, the raging of bristling boars and penned bears, and howling from huge creatures in the shape of wolves. These had all been men, but with her irresistible herbs, the savage goddess had given them the faces and hides of wild beasts. To protect the devout Trojans from suffering these monstrous changes, Neptune kept them from sailing into the harbour or coming near that deadly shore. He filled their sails with favouring winds and took them past the boiling breakers to safety. And now the waves were beginning to be tinged with red from the rays of the sun, and Aurora on her rosy chariot glowed in gold from the heights of heaven, when of a sudden the wind fell. Every breath was still, and the oars toiled in a sluggish sea. Here it was that Aeneas, still well offshore, sighted a great forest, and the river Tiber in all its beauty, bursting through it into the sea with its racing waves, and their burden of yellow sand. Around it and above it all manner of birds that haunted the banks and the bed of the river were flying the trees and sweetening the air with their singing. Aeneas gave the order to change course and turn the prows to land, and he came into the dark river rejoicing. Come now, Arato, and I shall tell of the kings of ancient Latium, of its history, of the state of this land, when first the army of strangers beached their ships on the shores of Ausonia. I shall recall, too, the cause of the first battle. Come, goddess, come and instruct your prophet. I shall speak of fearsome fighting. I shall speak of wars and of kings driven into the ways of death by their pride of spirit, of a band of fighting men from Etruria and the whole land of Hesperia under arms. For me, this is the birth of a higher order of things. This is a greater work I now set in motion. King Latinus was by this time an old man, and he had reigned over the countryside and the cities for many peaceful years. We are told that he was the son of Faunus and the Laurentine nymph Marica. The father of Faunus was Picus, and the father claimed by Picus was Saturn. Saturn then was the first founder of the line. By divine fate, Latinus had no male offspring. His son had been snatched from him as he was rising into the first bloom of his youth. An only daughter tended his home and preserved the succession for this great palace. She was now grown to womanhood, and at the age for marriage, and many were seeking her hand from great Latium and the whole of Ausonia. Turnus, the handsomest of them all, his claim supported by the long line of his forebears. The queen Amata longed above all things to see him married to her daughter, but many frightening portents from the gods forbade it. Deep in the innermost courtyard of the palace there stood a laurel tree. Its foliage was sacred, and it had been preserved and held in awe for many years, ever since Father Latinus himself had found it. So the story went, when he was building his first citadel, and dedicated it to Phoebus Apollo, naming the settlers after it, the Laurentines. To this tree there came by some miracle a cloud of bees, buzzing loudly as they floated through the liquid air, till suddenly they formed a swarm and settled on its very top, hanging there from a leafy branch, with their feet intertwined. A prophet thus interpreted: "What we see is a stranger arriving, and an army coming from the same direction, making for the same place, and gaining mastery over the heights of the citadel." Then again, when Lavinia was standing by her father's side, tending the altar with her chaste torches, another fearful sight was seen. Her long hair caught fire, and all its adornment was crackling in the flames. The princess's hair was blazing, her crown with all its lovely jewels was blazing, and soon she was wrapped in smoke and a yellow glare, and scattering fire all over the palace. The horror and miracle of it were on everyone's lips, and it was prophesied that her own fate and fame would be bright, but that a great war would come upon the people. Troubled by such portents, the king consulted the oracle of his prophetic father Faunus. Visiting the grove under Mount Albunia, a huge forest sounding with the waters of its sacred fountain and breathing thick clouds of sulphurous vapour. Here the Italian tribes and the whole land of Oenotria came to consult the oracle in their times of doubt. Here the priest brought his offerings, and when he lay down to sleep in the silence of the night on a bed of the fleeces of slaughtered sheep, he would see many strange fleeting visions, hear all manner of voices, enjoy the converse of the gods, and speak to Acheron in the depths of Avernus. Here too on that day Father Latinus himself came to consult the oracle, and after sacrificing 100 unshorn yearling sheep as ritual prescribes, he was lying propped on a bed of their hides and fleeces, when suddenly a voice was heard from the depths of the forest. "Do not seek to join your daughter in marriage to a Latin. O my son, do not place your trust in any union that lies to hand. Strangers will come to be your sons-in-law, and by their blood to raise our name to the stars. The descendants of that stock will see the whole world turning under their feet, and guided by their will, from where the rising sun looks down on the streams of ocean, to where he sees them as he sets." This was the reply of his father Faunus, the warning that came in the silence of the night. Latinus did not keep it locked in his heart, and rumour as she flew had already spread it far and wide through the cities of Ausonia, when the young warriors from Laomedon's Troy tied up their ships to the grassy ramparts of the river bank. Aeneas, the leading captains of Troy, and lovely Iülus had lain down on the grass under the branches of a tall tree and were starting to eat a meal, setting out their banquets on wheaten cakes. For Jupiter himself had so advised them, and heaping country fruits on these foundations, the gift of Ceres, the goddess of grain. When the fruit had all been eaten, and the sparseness of the diet had driven them to sink their teeth into Ceres's bounty, scant as it was, to violate with bold hand and jaw the fateful circles of crust, and show no mercy to the flat quarter circles of bread. Suddenly Iülus said, as a joke, "Look, we are even eating our tables." That was all. This was the first announcement they had received of the end of their sufferings. Oh yeah, she did say they'd eat their tables. Astounded by the presence of the divine, Aeneas seized upon his son's first words while he was still speaking and made him be silent. In that instant he lifted up his voice and cried out, "Hail to the land owed to me by the fates, and hail to the household gods of Troy, who have kept faith with me. This is our home, this is our own land, for now I remember it. My father Anchises left me this riddle of the fates. When you sail to an unknown shore, and your food is so scanty that hunger forces you to eat your tables, that is the time, weary as you are, to hope for a home. This is where you must, with your own hand, lay down the foundations of your first buildings, and raise a rampart round them. This is the hunger of which he spoke. This is the last hunger we had to endure, and it will put an end to our calamities. Come then, with joy in your hearts, and at the first light of the sun, let us all go in different directions from the harbour, to explore this place, and find out who are the men that live here, and where their cities are. And now pour libations from your goblets to Jupiter, call upon my father Anchises with your prayers, and set the wine in due order on the tables. At these words he wound a branch of living green round his forehead, and offered up prayers to the genius of the place, and to Earth, the first of gods, to nymphs and rivers not yet known, then to night and the stars of night then rising, to Jupiter of Mount Ida and the Phrygian mother in due order, to his mother in the heavens and his father in Erebus. In reply, the all-powerful Father thundered clear 3 times from the heights of the sky, and with his own hand he displayed in heaven a burning cloud, quivering with rays of golden light. In that instant, the word spread through the Trojan ranks that the day had come for them to found their promised city. Eagerly they renewed their feast and delighted this great omen. They set up their mixing bowls and crowned the wine with garlands. When the next day first rose and began to traverse the earth with its lamp, they set out in different directions to explore the city and the boundaries and shores of this people. Here were the pools where the river Numicus springs. Here was the river Tiber, and here were the homes of the stalwart Latins. Then Aeneas, son of Anchises, ordered 100 men, chosen as spokesmen from every rank of his people, to go to the sacred walls of King Latinus, all bearing branches of Pallas Athene's olive wreathed in wool, carrying gifts and asking for peace for the Trojans. They made no delay, but hastened with all speed to do as they were bidden, while Aeneas himself was marking out the line of his walls with a shallow ditch and beginning to build on the site, surrounding this first settlement on the shore with a stockade and rampart, as though it were a camp. The warriors, meanwhile, their long journey ended, were within sight of the towers and high roofs of the city of the Latins, and came up to the wall. There in front of the city, boys and young men in the first flower of their age were exercising with their horses, training chariot teams in clouds of dust, bending the springy bow, spinning the stiff-shafted javelin, racing and sparring, when a messenger riding ahead of the Trojans brought to the ear of the old king the news that huge men in strange costume had arrived. Latinus ordered them to be summoned into his palace while he took his seat in the middle on his ancestral throne, a sacred building, massive and soaring to the sky, with 100 columns, stood on the highest point of the city. This was the palace of Laurentine Picus, a building held in great awe because of an ancestral sense of the presence of the divine in the grove that surrounded it. Here the omens declared that kings should receive their scepters and take up the rods of office for the first time. This temple was their senate house, this the hall in which they held their sacred banquets, and here the elders would sacrifice a ram and sit down to feast at long tables. Here too, carved in old cedar wood, stood in order in the forecourt the statues of their ancestors from time long past, Italus and Father Sabinus, planter of the vine, still holding in effigy his curved pruning knife, old Saturn, the image of Janus, with his two faces, and the other kings since the foundation of the city, and with them the men who had been wounded while fighting to defend their native land. Many too were the weapons hung on the posts of the temple doors, captured chariots, curved axes, crests of helmets, great bolts from the gates of cities, spears, shields, and beaks broken off the prows of ships. Here too, with his short toga, the augural staff of Quirinus in his left hand, sat the horse-tamer Picus himself, whose wife Circe, possessed by lust, struck him with her rod of gold, and changed him with her potions into a bird, sprinkling colours on his wings. Such was the temple of the gods where Latinus sat in the seat of his fathers, and called the Trojans to him in his palace. When they entered, he was the first to speak, addressing them in these kindly words. Tell me, sons of Dardanus, you see we know your city and your family, and had heard about you before you set your course here. What are you searching for? What has taken your ships all over the blue waters of ocean and to the shore of Ausonia? What need has brought you here? Whether you have lost your way or been driven off course by the storms that sailors have to endure so often on the high seas, you have now sailed between the banks of our river and are sitting in harbour. Do not refuse the guest friendship we offer you, and do not forget that we Latins are Saturn's people, righteous not because of laws and restraints, but holding of our own free will to the way of life of our ancient god. Besides, I myself remember that the Auruncan elders used to say, the story is dimmed by the mist of time, that Dardanus was born in these fields, and went far away to the cities of Ida in Phrygia and the Thracian island of Samos, now known as Samothrace. He set out from here, from his Tyrrhenian home in Corythus, and now sits on a throne in the palace of gold in the starry sky, and his altars add a name to the roll of the gods. He spoke these words, and these were the words in which Ilioneus made answer. Great king, son of Faunus, it is not black storms and heavy seas that have driven us to this land of yours, nor have we lost our way by mistaking a star or a coastline. It is by design and with willing hearts that we all sail to this city, driven from our own kingdom, which was once the greatest the journeying sun could see from the highest part of the heavens. Our race begins with Jupiter. The warriors of Dardanus' Troy rejoice in Jupiter as their ancestor. Their king, Aeneas himself, is descended from Jupiter's exalted stock. And Trojan Aeneas has sent us to your door. The storm that gathered in merciless Mycenae and swept across the plains beneath Mount Ida, and the fate that drove the worlds of Europe and of Asia to collide, these are known to all men. Those who live far to the north, where the ends of the earth beat back the stream of Oceanus, and those who are separated from us by the zone of the cruel sun whose expanse covers the middle zone of 5. Since that cataclysm, we have sailed all those desolate seas, and now we ask for a little piece of land, for our fathers' gods, for harmless refuge on the beach, for the air and sea which are there for all men. We shall not bring discredit on your kingdom. Great fame will be yours, and our gratitude for such a service will never fade. The men of Ausonia will never regret taking Troy to their hearts. I swear by the destiny of Aeneas and his right arm, strong in the truth to all who have tested it, and strong in war and the weapons of war, that many nations have asked to enter into alliance with us. Do not despise us, because we choose to come to you with words of supplication and olive branches wreathed in wool in our hands. Many races have wished to be joined to ours, but the commands of divine destiny have driven us to seek out your country. This was the first home of Dardanus. This is the land to which Apollo calls us back and urges us with his mighty decrees towards the Tyrrhenian Thybris and the sacred shallows of the fountain of Numicus. These gifts, besides, Aeneas offers you. Some small relics of his former fortunes, rescued from the flames of Troy. From this gold cup, his father Anchises used to pour libations at the altar. This was a scepter Priam would hold in his hand as he gave solemn judgment before the concourse of the nations. And here are his sacred headdress and the vestments woven for him by the women of Troy. When Aeneas had finished speaking, Latinus kept his gaze fixed upon the ground and did not move. He never raised his burning eyes, but they were never still. As a king, he was moved to see the scepter of Priam and his embroidered purple, but much more was he moved by the thought of a marriage and a husband for his daughter, and long did he ponder in his heart the prophecy of old Faunus. So this was the fulfillment of the portent sent by the fates. So this was the son-in-law who would come from a distant land and be called to share his kingdom with equal auspices. This was the man whose descendants would excel in valour and whose power would win the whole world. He spoke at last, and joyfully. May the gods give their blessing to what we begin today and to their own prophecies. You will receive what you ask, Trojan, and I do not refuse your gifts. While Latinus is king, you will have rich land to farm, and you will never feel the lack of the wealth of Troy. Only Aeneas must come here himself, if he is so eager and impatient to join us in friendship and be called our ally. He has no need to recoil from the face of his friends. It will be a condition of the peace I offer that I must clasp the hand of your king. But now I charge you to take back this answer to him. Tell him I have a daughter, and the oracles from my father's shrine agree with all the signs from heaven in forbidding me to join her in marriage to any man of our people. Strangers will come from a foreign land to be my sons-in-law. This is what is in store for Latium, according to the prophecies. And by their blood they shall raise our name to the stars. This Aeneas is the man fates demand. This I believe, and this is my will, if my mind has any true insight into the future. After these words, Father Latinus made a choice from his whole stable, where 300 well-groomed horses stood in their high-built stalls, ordering one to be brought out instantly, for each of the Trojans in due order. Their hooves were swift as wings, their saddle-cloths were of embroidered purple, gold medallions hung at their breasts, and the caparisons were of gold, and they champed bright golden bits between their teeth. For Aeneas, in his absence, he chose a chariot and a pair of heavenly descent breathing fire from their nostrils. They were sprung from a stock which cunning Circe had crossbred by stealing one of the stallions of her father the sun to mate with a mare. With these gifts Aeneas's men returned, riding high in the saddle and bringing messages of peace. But at that very moment, fierce Juno, wife of Jupiter, was coming back from Argos, city of Inachus, holding her course through the winds of the air, when from far away in the heavens, as far as Cape Pacinus in Sicily, she caught sight of the jubilant Aeneas and his Trojan fleet. When she saw that they were already at work on their buildings, having abandoned their ships and committed themselves to the land, she stopped in mid-flight, pierced by bitter resentment. Then, shaking her head, she poured out these words from the depths of her heart. A curse on that detested race of Phrygians, and on their destiny, so opposed to our own. Could they not have died on the Sigean plains? They were defeated. Why could they not accept defeat? Troy was set alight. Could they not have burned with it? But no, they found a way through the press of the battle and the thick of the flames. They must think my divine powers are exhausted and discredited, or that I have glutted my appetite for hatred and am now at peace. After all, when they were cast out of their native land, I dared to hound them over the waves, and wherever they ran across the face of the ocean, I was there and set my face against them. I have used every resource of sea and sky against these Trojans. And what use have the Syrtes been to me, or Scylla, or the bottomless Charybdis? The Trojans are where they wanted to be in the valley of Thybris, safe from the sea and safe from me. Mars had the strength to destroy the monstrous race of Lapiths. The father of the gods himself handed over the ancient kingdom of Calydon to the wrath of Diana. And what great crime had the Lapiths or Calydon committed? But here I am, great Juno, wife of Jupiter, thwarted, though I have tried everything that could be tried. Nothing has been too bold for me, and I am being defeated by Aeneas. But if my own resources as a goddess are not enough, I am not the one to hesitate. I shall appeal to whatever powers there are. If I cannot prevail upon the gods above, I shall move hell. I cannot keep him from his kingdom in Latium, so be it. The decrees of the fates will stand, and he will have Lavinia to wife. But I shall be able to delay it all and drag it out. I shall be able to cut the subjects of both those kings to pieces. This will be the cost of the meeting between father-in-law and son-in-law, and their peoples will bear it. Your dowry, Lavinia, will be the blood of Rutulians and Trojans, and your matron of honour will be the goddess of war herself, Bellona. Hecuba, daughter of Cisseus, was pregnant with a torch, and gave birth to the marriage torches of Paris and Helen. But she is not alone. Venus too has a son, a second Paris, and torches will again be fatal for this second Troy. With these words, the fearsome goddess flew down to the earth and roused Alecto, bringer of grief, from the infernal darkness of her home among the Furies. Dear to her heart were the horrors of war, anger, treachery, and vicious accusations. Her own father, Pluto, hated his monstrous daughter. Her own sisters in Tartarus loathed her. She had so many faces and such fearsome shapes, and her head crawled with so many black serpents. This was the creature Juno now roused to action with these words: "Do me this service, O virgin daughter of night. It is a task after your own heart. See to it that my fame and the honour which I am held are not impaired or slighted. And see to it that Aeneas and his men do not win Latinus over with their offers of marriage, and are not allowed to settle on Italian soil. You can take brothers who love each other and set them at each other's throats. You can turn a house against itself in hatred and fill it with whips and funeral torches. You have 1,000 names and 1,000 ways of causing hurt. Your heart is teeming with them. Shake them all out. Shatter this peace they have agreed between them, and sow the seeds of recrimination and war. Make their young men long for weapons. Demand them. Seize them." In that moment, Alecto, gorged with the poisons of the Gorgons, went straight to Latium and the lofty palace of the king of the Lauretines, and settled on the quiet threshold of the chamber of Amata. There the queen was seething with womanly anger and disappointment at the arrival of the Trojans and the loss of the wedding with Turnus. Taking one of the snakes from her dark hair, the goddess Alecto threw it on Amata's breast to enter deep into her heart, a horror driving her to frenzy and bringing down her whole house in ruin. It glided between her dress and her smooth breasts, and she felt no touch of its coils. Without her knowing it, it breathed its viper's breath into her and made her mad. The serpent became a great necklace of twisted gold round her neck. It became the trailing end of a long ribbon twined round her hair. It slithered all over her body. While the first infection of the liquid venom was still oozing through all her senses and winding the fire round her bones, before her mind in her breast had wholly consumed the fever of it, to mean her heart, she spoke with some gentleness, as a mother might, and wept bitterly over the marriage of her daughter to a Phrygian. Is Lavinia being given in marriage to these Trojan exiles? You are her father. Have you no feelings for your daughter or her mother or yourself? When the first wind blows from the north, that lying brigand will take to the high seas and carry off my daughter, leaving me desolate. Is this not how the Phrygian shepherd wormed his way into Sparta and carried Leda's daughter Helen off to the cities of Troy? Where is your sacred word of honour? Where is the care you used to have for your kinsman? And what of all the pledges you have given Turnus, your own flesh and blood? But if you are searching for a son-in-law among strangers, and that is decided, if the commands of your father Faunus weigh so heavily upon you, then I maintain that all peoples who are not subject to our sceptre are strangers. That is what the gods are saying. Besides, if you were to trace the house of Turnus back to its first beginnings, his forefathers were Inachus and Acrisius of Argos, and his home is in the heart of Mycenae. With these words she had tried in vain to move Latinus, and seen that he held firm. When the maddening poison of the serpent had soaked deep into her flesh and oozed all through her body, the unhappy Amata, driven out of her mind by her monstrous affliction, raged in a wild frenzy through the length and breadth of the city like a spinning top flying under the plaited whip when boys are engrossed in their play, and make it go in great circles round an empty hall. The whip drives it on its curved course, and the boys look down, puzzled and fascinated, as they lash the spinning boxwood into life. As swift as any top, Amata ran through the middle of the cities of the fierce Latian people. Not content with this, she flew into the forests, pretending that she was possessed by Bacchus, and rose to greater impieties and greater madness by hiding her daughter in the leafy woods, hoping to cheat the Trojans out of the marriage or delay the lighting of the torches. You-ho, Bacchus! You-ho. What? You-ho, Bacchus. Okay. You-ho, Bacchus, she screamed. Only you are worthy of the Virgin. For you she takes up the soft-leaved thyrsus. Round you she moves in ritual dance. She grows her hair to consecrate it to you. Rumours flew fast. The same passion kindled in the hearts of all the mothers of Latium, and drove them out to search for new homes. They left their houses, their throats bare, and their hair streaming in the winds. Others, clad in animal skins and carrying vine shoots sharpened into spears, made the heavens ring with whimpering and wailing. Amata herself, in the fever of her madness, held high a burning torch in the midst of them, and sang a wedding hymn for Turnus and her daughter, rolling her bloodshot eyes. Suddenly she gave a dreadful cry. Io, all you mothers of Latins, wherever you may be, if in your faithful hearts there remains any regard for unhappy Amata, if your minds are troubled by the thought of what is due to a mother, untie the ribbons of your hair and take to the secret rites with me. This, then, was the queen whom Alecto drove with the lash of Bacchus through the forests and the desolate haunts of wild beasts. After she saw that this first madness was well under way, and that she had subverted Latinus' plans and all his house, the deadly goddess rose on her dark wings and flew straight to the walls of the bold prince of the Rutulians. Danae is said to have been driven on to this coast by southern gales, and to have founded this city for settlers who were subjects of her father, Acrisius, king of Argos. Our ancestors long ago gave it the name of Ardea, and Ardea still keeps its great name, though its fortune lies in the past. Here in this lofty palace, in the darkness of midnight, Turnus was lying deep in sleep. Alecto changed her appearance. No longer wild and raving, she took on the face of an old woman, with her brow furrowed by horrible wrinkles, and her white hair tied in a sacred ribbon and bound in a chaplet of olive leaves. She became Calibe, the aged priestess of Juno and her temple, and appeared before the eyes of young Turnus, saying, "Are you going to stand by and see all your labours go for nothing, Turnus, and your crown made over to these incomers from Troy? The king is refusing to give you the marriage and the dowry you have earned in blood, and is searching for a stranger to inherit his kingdom. So now, Turnus, go and expose yourself to danger. Your reward is to be laughed at. Go and cut down these Etruscans in their battle lines. Go and cover the Latins with the shield of peace." These are the very words which the daughter of Saturn, all-powerful Juno, has commanded me to say, and say clearly to you as you lie in the peace of night. So up with you, and with a light heart prepare to arm your young warriors, and move them from inside the city gates and out to the fields to burn the Phrygian captains and their painted ships, where they have made themselves at home on our lovely river. The mighty power of heaven demands it. If King Latinus does not agree to obey this command and allow you this marriage, he must learn. He must in the end face Turnus with his armour on. Turnus was laughing as he made his reply to the priestess. "You are wrong. The report has not failed to reach my ears. I know a fleet has sailed into the waters of the Thybris. Do not invent these fears for me. Royal Juno has not entirely forgotten us. It is old age and decay that cause you all this futile agitation and distress, and make you barren of truth. Taking a prophetess among warring kings, and making a fool of her with false fears. Your duty is to guard the statues of the gods and their temples. Leave peace and war to men. War is the business of men." When she heard the warrior's words, Alecto burst into blazing anger, and while he was still replying, a sudden trembling came over his limbs, and the eyes stared in his head as the Fury revealed herself in her full size and set all her hydras hissing. As he faltered and tried to go on speaking, she flung him back with her eyes flashing fire. 2 snakes stood up on her head, and she cracked her whips as she spoke again from her now maddened lips. "So I am old and decayed and barren of truth, and old age is taking me among warring kings and making a fool of me with false fears. Have a look at these. I come here from the home of the dread Furies, my sisters, and in my hands I carry war and death." With these words she threw a burning torch at the warrior, and it lodged deep in his heart, smoking with black light. A great terror burst in upon his sleep, and the sweat broke out all over his body and soaked him to the bone. In a frenzy of rage, he roared for his armour. "My armour!" he shouted, ransacking his bed and the whole palace for it. The lust for battle raged within him, the criminal madness of war, and, above all, anger. It was as though a heap of brushwood were crackling and burning under the sides of a bronze vessel, making the water seethe and leap up, a great river of it raging in the pot, with boiling foam spilling over and dense steam flying into the air. The peace was violated. Turnus gave orders to the leaders of his army to march to King Latinus, to prepare for war, to defend Italy and thrust the enemy out of its borders. When he arrived, that would be enough for the Trojans and enough for the Latins. These were his words, and he called upon the gods to witness them. The eager Rutulians urged each other to arms, some of them inspired by the rare grace of his youthful beauty, some by the long line of kings that were his ancestors, some by his brilliant feat of arms. While Turnus was filling the hearts of the Rutulians with boldness, Alecto flew off with all speed to the Trojans on her wings of Stygian black. Here, spying out the ground where lovely Iülus was hunting along the shore, trapping and coursing, she hatched a new plot. Into his hounds, the virgin goddess of Cocytus put a sudden fit of madness by touching their nostrils with the familiar scent of a stag, and sending them after it in full cry. This was the first cause of all the suffering. It was this that kindled the zeal for war in the hearts of the country people. It was a huge and beautiful stag, with a fine head of antlers, which had been torn from the udders of its mother and fed by Tyrus and his young sons. Tyrus looked after the royal herds and was entrusted with the wardenship of the whole broad plain. Silvia, the boy's sister, had given this wild creature every care and trained it to obey her. She would weave soft garlands for its horns, combing and washing it in clear running water. It became tame to the hand and used to come to its master's table. It would wander through the woods and come back home of its own accord to the door it knew so well, no matter how late the night. This is the creature that was roaming far from home, floating down a river, cooling itself in the green shade of the bank, when it was startled by the maddened dogs of the young huntsman Iülus. He himself, Ascanius, burning with a passionate love of glory, bent his bow and aimed the arrow. The god was with him and kept his hand from erring. The arrow flew with a great hiss and passed straight through the flank into the belly. Fleeing to the home it knew so well, the wounded stag came into its pen moaning, and stood there bleeding and filling the house with its cries of anguish, as though begging and pleading. Silvia was the first to call for help. She beat her own arms in grief and summoned the country people, who came long before she expected them. For savage Alecto was lurking in the silent woods. Some came armed with stakes, burned to a point in the fire, some with clubs made from knotted tree trunks. Each man searched for what he could find, and anger taught him how to make a weapon of it. Tyrus was calling up the troops. He had been driving in wedges to split an oak into four, and he snatched up his axe, breathing furiously. The cruel goddess saw from her vantage point that this was a moment when harm might be done, and flying to the top of the farm roof, from the highest gable, she sounded the herdsman's signal with a loud call on the curved horn. And its voice was the voice of Tartarus. The trees shivered at the noise, and the whole forest rang to its very depths. Far away the lake of Trivia heard it. The white, sulphur-laden streams of the river Nar heard it, and its springs in Lake Velinus, and terrified mothers pressed their babies to their breasts. Swift to answer the call of that dread horn, the hardy countrymen snatched up their weapons and gathered from every side. The Trojans, for their part, opened the gates of their camp and streamed out to help Ascanius. They drew up in a line of battle, and this was no longer a village brawl with knotted clubs and stakes sharpened in the fire. They fought with two-edged steel, and a dark crop of drawn swords sprouted all over the field, while bronze gleamed in answer to the challenge of the sun and threw its light up to the clouds, like the sea whitening at the first breath of wind and slowly stirring itself, raising its waves higher and higher till it reaches from the depths of the seabed to the heights of heaven. Suddenly there was the hiss of an arrow, and a young man standing out in front of the leading line of battle fell to the ground. It was Almo, the eldest son of Tyrus. The shaft had stuck deep in his throat, blocking the moist passage of the voice and closing off the narrow channel of his life in blood. The bodies of slain men soon lay around him, among them old Galesus, who died when he stepped between the armies to make peace. He was the justest man in the broad fields of Ausonia in these far days, and the richest. 5 flocks of sheep and 5 herds of cattle came back at evening to his stalls, and he turned the soil with 100 ploughs. While the battle was evenly poised on the plain, the mighty goddess, having fulfilled her promise when the first blood was spilt in war and the first clash of arms had led to death, left Hesperia and returned through the breezes of the sky to address Juno in these words of proud triumph. "You asked, and I have given. Discord is made perfect in the horror of war. Now tell them to come together and form alliances when I have sprinkled the Trojans with Italian blood. And I shall do more than this. If such be still your will for me, I shall spread rumours to draw the neighbouring cities into the war. I shall set their hearts ablaze with a mad lust for battle, and they will come from all sides to join in the fray. I shall sow a crop of weapons in all their fields." Juno gave her answer. "There is enough terror and lying. The causes of war are established. They are fighting at close quarters, and fresh blood is staining whatever weapons chance first puts into their hands. Let this be the wedding they will celebrate, the noble son of Venus and great King Latinus. Let this be their wedding hymn. The father of the gods, the ruler of high Olympus, would not wish you to rove too freely over the breezes of heaven. You must withdraw. Should there be any need for further effort, I shall take the guidance into my own hands." No sooner had the daughter of Saturn spoken these words than Alecto lifted up her wings, hissing with snakes, and flew down to her home on the banks of the Cocytus. Or is it Cocytus? I don't even know. Leaving the steeps of the sky. At the foot of high mountains in the middle of Italy, there is a well-known place whose fame has spread to many lands, the valley of Amsanctus. A dark forest presses in upon it from both sides, with its dense foliage, and in the middle a crashing torrent roars over the rocks, whipping up crests of foam. Here they point to a fearful cave, which is a vent for the breath of Dis, the cruel god of the underworld. Into this cave bursts Acheron, and here a vast whirlpool opens its pestilential jaws, and here the loathsome fury disappeared, lightening heaven and earth by her absence. But none the less the queen of the gods, the daughter of Saturn, was at that moment putting finishing touches to the war. A whole crowd of herdsmen came rushing from the battlefield into the city, carrying the bodies of young Almo and Galesus, with his face mutilated. They were all imploring the help of the gods and appealing to Latinus. Turnus was there, and when the fire of their fury and the accusations of murder were at their height, he heaped fear upon fear, claiming that the Trojans were being invited to take a share in the kingdom. Their own Latin blood would be adulterated by Phrygians, while he was being turned from the door. At this there were gathered from all sides, wearying Mars with their clamour for war, those whose mothers had been crazed by Bacchus, and were now dancing in wild rout in the pathless forests. The name of Amata had great weight with them. In an instant they were all demanding this wicked war against all the omens, against divine destiny, and contrary to the will of the gods. They rushed to besiege the palace of King Latinus, who stood unmoved like a rock in the ocean, like a solid rock in the ocean pounded by breakers, standing fast with the waves howling round it, while reefs and foam-soaked scars roar in helpless anger, and the seaweed is forced against its side, then streams back with the undertow. But there was no resisting the counsels of blind folly. All things were taking their course according to the nod of savage Juno. Again and again the king, the father of his people, called upon the gods and the empty winds to witness. "We are caught in the gale of fate," he cried. "Our ship is breaking under us. You, my poor people, will pay for this sacrilege with your blood. You are the guilty one, Turnus, and grim punishment lies in store for you. You will supplicate the gods, but your prayers will be too late. I have already reached calm water, and here at the harbour mouth I lose all the happiness I might have had in the hour of my death." He said no more, but shut himself away in his palace, and gave up the reins of power. In Hesperia, in the lands of Latium, there was a custom later inherited and revered in the cities of Alba, and now observed by Rome, the greatest of the great, when men first rouse Mars for battle, whether they are preparing to bring the sorrows of war to the Getae, the Hyrcani, or the Arabs, or whether they are heading for India and the rising of the sun and reclaiming the standards from the Parthians. There are two gates known as the gates of war, sanctified by religion and the fear of savage Mars. These gates are closed by 100 bolts of bronze and the everlasting strength of iron, nor does their sentry Janus ever leave the threshold. When the fathers are resolved on war, the consul himself, conspicuous in the short toga of Quirinus, girt about him. What the hell is girt?
What the hell is
Girt.
girt?
Yeah.
G-H-U-R-T.
No, G-I-R-T.
What context is it in?
Quirinus girt.
Is it something to do with their clothing?
Toga?
It's usually something tied
Okay.
away.
I did not know this. Conspicuous in the short toga of Quirinus girt about him in the Gabine manner, unbars the doors. They grind in their sockets, and he summons war. The whole army takes up the call, and the bronze horns breathe their shrill assent. So too in those days Latinus was bidden to declare war upon the men of Aeneas by opening these grim gates. The old king, father of his people, would not lay his hand upon them, but recoiled from this wickedness and refused to perform the task, shutting himself up in the darkness away from the sight of men. At this, the queen of the gods came down from the sky and struck the stubborn doors, bursting the iron-bound gates of war and turning them in their sockets. Till that moment Ausonia had been at peace and unalarmed, but now the foot soldiers mustered on the plain, and high in the saddle came the excited horsemen, stirring up the dust. Every man was looking for weapons, polishing shields with rich fat till they were smooth, burnishing spears till they shone, and grinding axes on the whetstone. What joy to raise the standards and hear the trumpets sound! 5 great cities, no less, set up anvils to forge new weapons. Mighty Aetna, proud Tiber, Ardea, Crustumerium, and Antemne with its towers. They hollowed out helmets to protect the heads of warriors. They wove frames of willow shoots to form shields. They made bronze blessed plates.
What? Blessed plates?
Blessed plates.
My God.
They made bronze breastplates and smooth shields of ductile silver. This is what had become of all their regard for the sickle and the share. This is what had become of all their love for the plough. The swords of their fathers were now retempered in the furnace. Now the trumpets blew, and out went the signal that called them to war. In high excitement, they tore down their helmets from the roof, yoked their trembling horses to the chariot, buckled on their shields and their breastplates of triple woven gold, and girt their trusty swords about them. Now, goddesses, it is time to open up Mount Helicon, to set your songs in motion, and tell what kings were roused to war, what armies followed each of them to fill the plains, the heroes that flowered, and the weapons that blazed in those far-off days, in the bountiful land of Italy. You are the divine muses. You remember, goddesses, and can utter what you remember. Our ears can barely catch the faintest whisper of the story. The first to enter upon the war and arm his columns was cruel Mezentius from Etruria, scorner of the gods. At his side was his son Lausus, who for his beauty was second to none but Aeneas and Turnus. Lausus was a tamer of horses and a hunter of wild beasts, and he was at the head of 1,000 men who had followed him, and followed him in vain from the city of Agylla. He deserved a father whom it would have been more of a joy to obey, a father other than Mezentius. Behind them, driving over the grassland and displaying his victorious horses and his chariot, which proudly bore the palm of victory, came Aventinus, son of Hercules, fair son of a fair father, and on his shield he carried his father's blazon, the Hydra and its snakes, the 100 snakes encircling it. His mother, the priestess Rhea, had given birth to him in secret, bringing him into the land of light in the wood on the Aventine hill. She had lain with Hercules, a woman with a god, when he had come into triumph to the land of the Laurentines, the hero of Tyrrhenes, who had slain Geryon and washed the cattle of Spain in the river of Etruscans. His men carried javelins and fearsome pikes into battle, and used the Sabine throwing spear with its round tapering point. He himself was on foot, swinging a great lion skin about him as he walked. It was matted and bristling, and he had put it with its white teeth over his head, and a fearsome sight he was as he came up to the palace with his father's garb tied round his shoulders. Next came 2 bold Argive warriors, the twin brothers Catillus and fierce Coras, leaving the walls of Tiber, which took its name from their brother Tibertus. They would charge out in front of the first line of battle through showers of missiles, like 2 cloud-born centaurs, plunging down in wild career from the snow-clad tops of Mount Homol or Mount Orthris, crashing through the trees as the great forest opens to let them pass. The founder of the city of Praeneste was also there, a king who ruled among the herds and flocks of the countryside. Men have always believed that he was the son of Vulcan, Caeculus, found as a baby on the burning hearth. His rustic legion came from far and wide to follow him, from Praeneste on its hilltop, from the fields round Juno's city of Gabii, from the icy waters of the Anio and the streaming river rocks of the Hernici, men nurtured by the rich city of Anagnea, and by your river, Father Amasenus. Not all of these came into battle with shields and arms and chariots sounding, Most of them showered acorns of blue lead from slings. Some carried a pair of hunting spears in one hand and wore on their heads tawny caps made from the hides of wolves, their left foot leaving a naked print, while a rawhide boot protected the right. Now Messapus, breaker of horses, son of Neptune, whom neither fire nor steel might lay low, suddenly took up his sword again, and called to arms tribes that had long lived at ease, and armies that had lost the habit of war. These were the men who came from the ridges of Fescennium, from Aquum Faliscum, from the citadel of Soracte, and the Flavinian fields, from the lake of Cominius, and its mountain, and the groves of Capena. They marched in regular formations, singing the praises of their king, like white swans flying back from their feeding grounds through wisps of cloud, and pouring out the measured music from their long necks, while far and wide the echo of their singing beats back from the river and the Asian marsh. This great mingled swarm of men seemed not like a bronze-clad army, but like an airy cloud of clamorous birds on the wing, straining in from the high seas to the shore. There comes Clausus, of the blood of the ancient Sabines, leading a great army, and a great army in himself. From Clausus are descended the tribe and family of the Claudii, spread all over Latium, ever since the Sabines were given a share in Rome. With him came a large contingent from Amiternum, and the first Quirites, all the troops of Eretum, and from olive-bearing Otusca, all who lived in the city of Nomentum, and the Rosian plains round Lake Velinus, on the bristling rocks of Tetrica, and its gloomy mountain, in Casperia and Foruli, and on the banks of the Himela, men who drank the Tiber and the Fabaris, men sent by Chile, Nursia, levies from Orta, tribes from old Latium, and the peoples whose lands are cut by the Allia, the river of ill-omened name. They were as many as the waves that roll in from the Libyan Ocean, when fierce Orion is sinking into the winter sea, or as thick as the ears of corn scorched by the early sun on the plain of Hermus, or the golden fields of Lycia. Their shields clanged, and the earth quaked under the beat of their feet. Halesus next, one of Agamemnon's men, and an enemy of all things Trojan, yoked his horses to his chariot, and rushed 1,000 fierce tribes to join Turnus, men whose mattocks turn the rich Massic soil for Bacchus. Auruncans sent by their fathers from their high hills, men sent from the nearby plains of Sidicinum, men who came from the Cales and the banks of the Volturnus, river of many fords, and with them the tough Saticulan and bands of Oscats. Their weapon was the Aclis, a light spear, and it was their practice to attach a supple thong to it. A leather shield protected their left side, and for close fighting they used swords shaped like sickles. Nor will you, O Ibalus, go unmentioned in our song. Men say you were the son of Telon, by the nymph of the river Sebethus, born when Telon was already an old man and ruling over Caprae, the island of the Teleboe. But the son no more than the father had been content with the lands he had inherited, and by now he had long held sway over the tribes of the Sarastes, the plains washed by the river Sarnus, men who lived in Rufri, Batalum, and the fields of Salemna, and those on whom the walls of apple-bearing Abella looked down. Their missile was a catea, a weapon thrown like the Teuton boomerang. Their heads were protected by helmets of bark stripped from the cork oak. They carried gleaming half-moon shields of plated bronze, and their swords too were of gleaming bronze. You too, Ufens, famous for your feats of arms, were sent into battle from the mountains of Nerse. The Equi live in a hard land, and are the most rugged of races, schooled in hunting in the forests. They work the soil with their armour on. Their delight is always to bring home fresh plunder and live off what they take. Then came a priest from Maruvium, his helmet decorated by a sprig of fruitful olive, the bravest of men, Umbro by name, sent by King Archippus. By his spells and the touch of his hand, he knew well how to sow the seed of sleep on nests of vipers and on water snakes, for all their deadly breath. His arts could charm their anger and soothe their bites, but he had no antidote for the sting of a Trojan sword, and not all his lullabies and herbs gathered in the Marcian hills could help him with his wounds. For you wept the grove of the goddess Angitia. For you wept the glassy waves and clear pools of Lake Funkius. No, of Lake Fucinus. Funkius. I said that really wrong. For you wept the glassy waves and clear pools of Lake Fucinus. There too, sent by his mother, Aricia, glorious Virbius came to the war, the lovely son of Hippolytus. He had grown to manhood in the grove of Egeria, round the dank lake shores, by the altar where rich sacrifices win the favour of Diana. For after Hippolytus had been brought to his death by the wiles of his stepmother, Phaedra, torn to pieces by bolting horses, and paying with his blood the penalty imposed by his father, men say he came back under the stars of the sky and the winds of heaven, restored by healing herbs and the love of Diana. Then the all-powerful father was enraged that any mortal should rise from the shades below into the light of life, and with his own hand he took the inventor of those healing arts, Asclepius, son of Apollo, and hurled him with his thunderbolt down into the wave of the river Styx. But Diana Trivia, in her loving care, found a secret refuge for Hippolytus, and consigned him to the nymph Egeria and her grove, where, alone and unknown, his name changed to Virbius, he might live out his days. Thus it is that horn-hooved horses are not admitted to the sacred grove of the temple of Trivia, because in their terror at the monsters of the deep, the horses of Hippolytus had overturned his chariot and thrown him on the shore. But nonetheless, his son was driving fiery horses across the level plain as he rushed to the wars in a chariot. There, looking around him and moving among the leaders, was Turnus himself, in full armour, the fairest of them all, Snow White, and taller by a head than all the others. On the towering top of his triple-plumed helmet, there stood a chimera, breathing from its throat a fire like Aeneas, and the fiercer and bloodier the battle, the more savagely she roared and belched the deadly flames. The blazon on his polished shield showed a mighty theme, a golden figure of Io, raising her horned head, with rough hair on her hide, already changed into a heifer. And there was Argus, guarding her, and her father Inachus, pouring his river from an urn embossed on the shield. Behind Turnus came a cloud of foot soldiers, and the whole plain was crowded with columns of men bearing shields, the youth of Argos, bands of Auruncans, Rutulians, Sicani, that ancient race, Sacrani in battle order, and Labici with their painted shields, men who ploughed the Tiber valley and the sacred banks of the Numicus, men whose ploughshare worked the Rutulian hills and the ridge of Circae, men from the fields ruled by Jupiter of Anxur and the goddess Feronia, delighting in her greenwood growth, and the men from the black swamps of Satura, where the icy river Ufens threads his way along the valley bottom to lose himself in ocean. Last of all came Camilla, the warrior maiden of the Volsci, leading a cavalry squadron, flowering in bronze. Not for her girlish hands the distaff and wool basket of Minerva. She was a maid inured to battle, of a fleetness of foot to race the winds. She could have skimmed the tops of a standing crop without touching them, and her passage would not have bruised the delicate ears of grain. She could have run over the ocean, hovered over the swell, and never wet her foot in the waves. Young men streamed from house and field, and mothers came thronging to gaze at her as she went, lost in wonderment at the royal splendour of the purple veiling the smoothness of her shoulders, her hair weaving round its gold clasp, her Lycian quiver, and the shepherd's staff of myrtle wood with the head of a lance.